Hey everybody, thanks for hanging out with me today on the My Bourbon Journey whiskey review channel. So today we're taking a look at a relatively new product. This is going to be from Barrel Craft Spirits. This is Stellum. This is Stellum, their rye specifically. This comes in at 116.24 proof or 58.12% ABV. Mashbill on this, 95.5. We know it's basically an MGP source rye. And this, in terms of their blends of the barrels, is anywhere from between 4 and 10 years. So some nice ages on some of those ryes that they're putting together for this batch. It is non-age stated, but again, we know that the blends are between 4 and 10 years old. And the MSRP on this, again, is a friendly 55 bucks. I think for a sourced MGP, you know, with some aged rye in there, this is gonna be a pretty solid price. So let's go ahead and kind of get into the review, and we'll see what the Stellum Rye is all about. So color-wise, nice kind of rich copper, light mahogany type of color. So for, you know, ryes that are between 4 and 10 years old, again, really nice color on this. And again, I've allowed this to open up for probably about 10, maybe upwards of 15 minutes prior to the review, just to kind of let this thing open up a little bit. I mean, personally, I think ryes really start to shine as you let these things open up, and ones that are, you know, a little higher proof, you know, in this almost, what, 115, 116 proof, you know, these things need to open up a little bit. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into the nose. So, typical rye or typical MGP rye kind of nose, you've got this little bit of a dill / mint aspect that's there on this one. A little more mint on this one, I would say. Yeah, and it's a pretty typical nose that you get from that 95.5, where you get a little bit of that mint and dill kind of influence on their ryes. Some nice orange citrus on this one specifically. The rye is like really beginning to shine. So as you move it around in the glass a little bit, that rye influence starts to really kind of kick in. Nice vanilla note there as well. And then a little bit of like an evergreen, or kind of a, you know, that spearmint pine, some kind of note along those lines. Yeah, very herbal, maybe like even a black tea influence. A little bit of a cinnamon note. Yeah, and the more I would say this opens up and I kind of move it around and talk a little bit more mint starts to come out. And again, that's very typical. A lot of times MGP ryes will kind of start out with this dill influence, but for me, they quickly kind of translate over to or away from the dill and more into the mint side of things, which I prefer more in a rye to get more of the mint influence than I do the dill. But again, early on, a little bit of that dill influence, but it kind of quickly transitions over to that mint aspect to it. I mean, as you nose it, it definitely lets you know that it's a rye. And again, that 95.5, I mean, it's a fantastic mash bill and rye from MGP. So it's really starting to shine. All right, let's go ahead and get into the taste here. Cheers. Instantly, this great like baking spice, that nice rich rye influence right in your face. Nice spice, nice oak. Right there in the front of the mid palate, it's hitting perfectly. Nice candied orange aspect that's there to it. Nice rich sweet oak. Yeah, again, that candy sweetness that's there, a little bit more of that orange influence that's there. Nice mint, maybe even a little bit of a chocolate, so like kind of like a mint chocolate, something along those lines. A little bit more of that herbal influence, that like kind of black tea. Not a lot of dill, touch of dill, more on the mint side of things. Again, it's a typical transition for me for what MGP ryes do. Start out a little bit on the dill side, quickly transition over to the mint side, which again, I appreciate very much. Nice vanilla note there on this as well. Again, I would say, you know, my thoughts on this is, I mean, I'm a huge fan of MGP rye in general, and I think the natural transition of what this does, again, is very typical of what that rye is, that 95.5 rye influence. It's a really nice, well-blended rye whiskey, and this is one that I think, from a sipping standpoint, is great. You know, if you're willing to pay the $55 to make a cask strength rye cocktail, even better. I mean, it would make a fantastic cocktail, hands down. Again, that 95.5 is used in a lot of different, you know, either like blends or other, you know, companies use that Mashbill. And again, it's a very popular one. And again, what they've done with this, blending those 4-year to upwards of 10-year ryes together, they've done a really nice job with this one. I would have no problem sitting down and sipping on this rye whiskey. It's a standard or typical MGP influence, and they've kind of put their spin on the blending of this. And again, that's what, you know, Barrel is known for. I mean, these guys are master blenders of what it is that they do, and they've put this together absolutely fantastically. So, I mean, great job from that standpoint. So if we go back to kind of the finish on this one, I think you get, you know, a little bit of that again, that typical influence. You know, a little bit of the dill is there. It's not overpowering by any means. You know, still some of that mint, the evergreen aspect, that little black tea, still really nice spice to it. That rye spice is fantastic. You know, medium oak presence, some really nice orange citrus influence on this one as well. So it's a really nice, well blended rye whiskey that Barrel Craft Spirits has once again done a fantastic job with. So there you have it. So again, from Barrel Craft Spirits, this is the Stellum Rye. Again, comes in at 116.24 proof or 58.12% ABV. Again, Mashbill 95.5 MGP sourced rye whiskey. Barrels on this, in terms of aged, between 4 and 10 years old. It is non-age stated, but again, we just talked a little bit about the ages on those barrels. And the MSRP on this one is a nice or friendly $55. Would have no problem paying that price for this whatsoever. So there you have it. Hopefully that helps if you were looking for a little information on what the Stellum Rye had to offer. Hopefully, again, this helped out a little bit. So I want to say thank you so much for tuning into another one of my reviews. Greatly appreciate all of the support. If you'd like to follow me, you can on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those places at My Bourbon Journey. If you're interested in supporting the channel or becoming part of the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club, my link to that Patreon page will be linked again in the description below. So with that being said, I want to say thank you so much again for tuning into another review. And as always, remember, it's about the journey and not the destination.